Imagine something different.
Okay, so this will be about the exhibition coming up.
This recording is
so,
about the exhibition. Yeah, so you've got the Whims of Change coming, which is a great title.
Yeah, it's also the title of a piece I'd done many years ago. But you have to reuse titles because sometimes the saying just fits, and we do so many works of art in our lifetime. You can use words over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Winds of Change was a painting that I'd done in response to being on a sinking ferry boat in Thailand. And I have painted sequels to that experience and that piece many times. But
when you were on the ferry boat, was that before your art career or during your art career?
Well, it's all during my art career, because my art career has been going on since I was a child. It never, I guess it started when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, you know. By the time I was 8, I was already in competitions and whatnot. So, but the change, that's what this is about. Are we recording yet? Or
you're live.
All right. So things happen like 9/11, which I remember vividly being dumbfounded as an artist, thinking, well, what do we do now? What does it mean? Everyone was so afraid, and everyone's priorities had shifted. It seemed almost frivolous or vanity to pursue art, particularly fantastic art. And it took me a few days, and I realized, actually, this just demonstrates the need for that even more. And so with this pandemic and situation, what it's been, it has, I've built on that same idea. In other words, I'd gone through it at 9/11, and this time around I was like, I know what this means. I know what it is about. It's very clear to me that the more things may seem to be falling apart, the more culture needs to bond it back together. And so one of the things that an artist does is they're supposed to bring in new ideas, fresh ideas, mix it up, surprise people. You want to bring in the element of surprise. And also your life changes. And so here's this pivotal point. And we're all going through, getting older. And not only does our mind change, but our bodies change. And we may want to approach our art differently. And that's where I'm at, where I have spent many decades sitting very still doing fine detail. And it's been really hard on my nervous system and circulatory system, just staying still, perfectly still for long hours. So I had planned for years to kind of tailor that back and try to manage my time and my health a little better, not abuse my body in that way. And so there are liberties I wanted to take that other artists have done. And I could use the example of Norman Rockwell, who, he was famous as being an illustrator, but he was one of the finest painters that ever lived. His skills are at the top. I mean, and the value of his work today is above what a master would expect. It's just profound. But he tried to paint like Jackson Pollock, and it wasn't accepted. He was, ridiculed for, trying to do that. And another artist, Alan McGee, who is a hyper-realist, paints these stones, where you're just basically looking down at the seashore, bird's eye view at these washed, smooth stones. And he was probably the first artist to really to do that, and then other artists copied it. But he had an interest in surrealism and kind of went off the radar with this dark side, and he had to go back to the stones to, keep the electric bill paid.
I was going to say, keep the money coming in. I think that's the thing about the art world and the gatekeepers, isn't it? It's like you're part of we are all part of a massive collective, which the events of 9/11 and this pandemic really bring into stark reality. We see that we're all connected into one human experience around the globe. But within the art world, we're also formed in that network, and the network is all relying on everyone kind of doing their thing. And if they suddenly step away and go, I'm not going to do that anymore, there are going to be people who are going to be unhappy and want you to stay in your box.
It's a mixed bag. So I haven't had a chance to field this very far to get a wide response, but I know what to expect, and that is, half the people will say, oh, he's departing, there goes what we loved about him. Yeah. Now he's trying to do something different, that will stop working. And it's not that at all. It's that I've had these other things I wanted to do, and I've had this other sort of physical activity that is part of the art. The art and physics go hand in hand. And so for me, it's standing up in the studio, moving around fast and doing big gestures and big strokes and taking big chances with physical material. It's in some ways more visceral. It's not the same medium, if you will.
No, I think it's just really exciting. It's a bit like when Matisse started doing his cutouts. It's through an element of need. His body was, obviously his eyesight was going, and he needed to create a different way of making art. And what you're saying is, as the artist grows and develops and ages, inevitably, we all do, that you sometimes have to find a new way. For me, that's just exciting. That's my brain pathways, are always like, change is exciting. It's going to offer something new. But then I don't rely on you to help me make money, do I? Whereas other people will obviously have an objection if they are relying on anyone in their chain to make the money, and they do something radical like this. But I am thrilled and excited when my artists present with something new, because it shows that they're really using that creative muscle in their brain. And that's what you bring to the party. How do we know what's around the corner if we don't give you the opportunity to explore that?
Well, that's where you take a chance, and the thing that I want to communicate to my audience that may be paying attention is that it's not that I'm departing from what I used to do. It's that I used to do this all the time, and it's something I've always done as an exercise, and it's been integrated with my work. So it's part of the makeup of what people have seen of me. This has always been going on, and it's how you evolve from something that's almost abstract and very coarse to something that's refined. But there's a great beauty to all points in between, just like there's a beauty to just a line drawing or a sketch. And so I want to bring this range of different process understanding to my exhibition, to my presentation of my work. And by doing that, it may enable me to delve more into those experiments. So you'll still see in this body of work things that look very much like what people expect from me or would know me for. And you'll see things that start to loosen up and become more gestural, and even go to the point where they're almost abstract.
Wow.
So
Let's have a quick look. Let's do a quick screen share, and you can talk us through what we're looking at. So this is the piece that because obviously I've been collecting your work for quite a good number of years now, 20 odd. And I was I absolutely love it. And yet the first piece I bought off of you was really architectural. It was the cherub clinging to the steeple. And then recently, obviously, I bought the next piece, which and the pencil drawings. And they're very, very, as you say, tight and precise. But as soon as I saw this, I love the colors. I love the mark making. I love that transition between the precise and the almost fluid of this piece that we're looking at here. So what's this one called? Is this?
No, I don't even. That might be the title there. It's
The title piece.
Yeah, and we haven't released the images. Only a couple of images because we can't unveil them until
of course
the exhibition. And the titles, sometimes the titles just come to me right away. But the painting isn't about a title. It's whether, you go to find a kitten at the shelter and you love the kitten, but the name comes the next day, or later in the day. So
it's a feeling, isn't it? It's all about a feeling.
But this technique and this style is something that I've done since I was a young man. And that was more, it kind of was something I did when I was around other artists who were more painterly. And, it was probably just a set of values that back in the 80s was something that was being taught in the high art realm. And I learned from, other artists that are around me to kind of push my own skills in certain ways to develop this activity. And I would paint these in like my friend's kitchen, I would just do them for entertainment. And they don't take as long as the detail work, but the amount of activity, I mean, you could have a pretty sore shoulder after the amount of, layers of paint and the aggressive brushing and scraping. But you're also looking through your third eye, but your third eye is on the side of your head. It's not in the middle of your forehead anymore. And so this is also like a landscape or like a plein air painting, but most of the time I'm not actually in the field doing it. I've just come off the trail and then I remember what I've seen. So I'm collecting from nature, from my environment, but in real time getting back to the studio and trying to capture those elements. And the only advantage to the studio is, like, if this is a large piece, it would be hard to take it outside.
How large is this piece that we're looking at on the screen? Because it looks huge.
In feet, it's probably, I don't want to misspeak here, but it's probably 4 or 5 feet tall.
Yeah, I get the sense of that you could get lost in it. It's still got the surrealism and the fantasy that we love in your work is still there.
Well, this is not that surreal in that that's what it looks like from my house.
You're a very lucky man.
That's the perspective I have on the water and the mountains and the trees, and I have those trees right outside my window. So,
and this is
I could show them to you.
Yeah, this is the new house. If I stop sharing, you can turn your computer around and we can have a look out of the window.
Yeah, let's see. There's a lot of light that comes into the screen, but you can see those redwood trees. Those are the redwood trees.
Wow.
And you see this house has tall windows
Yeah.
to take advantage of the setting of the trees.
So I see this is the new house that you're just moving into.
Yes.
So you haven't got that much work around you, have you? But the piece behind you is very familiar. What's the piece behind you?
That actually was in our house in Sausalito, and has been the backdrop for the other interview you did with me.
Yeah.
So that one is called Spellbound, and that's a canvas unique of it, where I've hand worked it. But I don't have any of the new work here. It's all came back from the framers and is wrapped and locked in a vault till the day. So I think Yulia will share with you at least one other image that's been posted, if you don't have that. And that's the one that has kind of these cliffs with a village built on the top of the cliff.
Yeah, that would be lovely. If she can send me that, then we can share that with people as well. And she can email that to me, that would be lovely. But that piece that we were just looking at, if the work is all based around that, it's going to be absolutely stunning. And I'm just sad that I'm here in England and you're over there, and I can't get there in May to see it all unveiled, because that is going to be an exciting moment to see. Is it predominantly like that piece we were just looking at, most of the work?
It varies. So
it's giving away, cagey.
So I'll start really, really loose on one piece, and then as I keep going, I tend to tighten up and get more like my old self, and then I'll break away again. And so you'll see, I think for the most part, you'll see a lot of the boulder marks and boulder strokes, and more that colors that are layered and being revealed through each other through the different techniques I apply.
Yeah, that we're not talking about.
Well, there's no set way. I mean, each time it's different. So you're trying to pull something out, and it's not like I'm trying to articulate this little dollhouse made of toothpicks. I'm trying to see what happens with the sheens and the metamerisms of different pigments and reflective surfaces and complementary colors. And I'm really pushing the envelope to try to make those little happy accidents happen in very complex ways within it. It's not a new concept. It's just I'm demonstrating that I do what every painter does. I have at it.
Yeah. You said that you start to get tighter again as you're doing it, and then you start to the muscle memory kicks in, and you start to get tighter again. Do you have like little tricks and techniques to kind of loosen yourself up and get back into the new way that you're trying to explore?
Well, I think it's after I've been sitting still for 3 hours and then 6 hours that my hands may go numb, and I'll say, I was going to stop doing that and not do that so much. And so, I think what's good is I'm getting to do this exercise, and I'll take the liberty to do it as I need it. There's no set schedule for what I'm going to do. I'm just, as I'm getting older, being more me and doing what I want. And when I was young, I did that. I did some Jackson Pollock paintings, So
connect back to your joy.
I'm sorry?
Connect back to your joy.
Well, I think as we get typecasts, or as we become successful, we find what is successful and we perfect it and we get really good at it. But we don't always want to be a prisoner to that, and nor do our collectors. No. So
And as one of your collectors, I'm really excited to see the way the work's going. I think it's stunning, and you can see it's you in those new pieces. So that's one collection you've done, and it's all framed and in the vault already. Are you now working again back in that? You said you're building a new studio. Are you working back in the studio painting more now?
I'm anxious to get in there. As always, it's taking a little longer than expected, but I'm close. I think in another week I may be in the awkwardness of a new studio. I don't know if you had that experience, but when you first start working in a new space, it can take a few days before you get comfortable with it and start to open up. But it just it was a practical move, moving out of the studio that I was in, and where we moved here. I like to have my studio at home. I don't like to drive to work, and I've been commuting, and there's a lot of traffic now that everything's opened up again.
I haven't had that experience because I'm not an artist, as you I do photography, but I'm not a painter or an artist, so I haven't had an artist studio as such. But I think that's like that with everything. We have to get re-familiar. We have to kind of reconnect with our space. So it's like changing any job, isn't it? When you move to a different office, you have to kind of get in with your tribe, and your tribe are the walls that are surrounding you.
Yeah, there's a, I started out working in a bedroom in Maine as a child. It was cold outside, and you could hide in your room and draw and paint and fill your room with all these things, and you create this big shrine. And it's a sanctuary. And it's really hard to go out on the sidewalk and paint and have strangers come up and talk to you, or to go out on the hillside in the wilderness and have bees and flies and things landing on you, and dirt landing on your piece all the time. So and wind, and there's all these elements. And when you're in your space that you're familiar with, if there's noise coming from the neighbors or whatnot, you're kind of used to it. But to just go somewhere and randomly set up and start creating is really challenging, because you've got to shut out a lot of outside stimuli to use the faculties you've trained in the realms of isolation. Now, artists that would be more like a performance artist, or there are artists who have adjusted and are comfortable with just working in any environment.
Yeah, some artists love going out on plein air and actually enjoy the theatre of that experience, and then others don't. I suppose that's that's like all of us. We've all got our tendencies, haven't we? We've got the parts of our character. I didn't think I would in any way ever be doing live interviewing artists all around the world on a screen, because I chose to be a photographer and do my go to art college and do photography, because I didn't want to be on the other side of the lens. But actually, we grow up and change, and things, some tendencies kind of recede and some tendencies come forward, don't they? As you say, we refine what makes us happy, and we understand ourselves a little bit better. When you go out, you're saying about going out into the landscape and absorbing all of that around you, and then coming back and putting that out onto your canvases. Do you photograph or sketch, or how do you record that? Just on your brain?
Yeah, I keep telling myself I should take pictures, but it's so close to me and it's available all the time. I see it so much that I can always refer back to it. I'll say one of the things that opens my eyes more is I have children, and when I take them on hikes or mountain bike rides or whatever, they always notice every little detail, and if they don't, I want to point it out to them. So there's always with them a more heightened sense of awareness of what our surroundings are and the beauty in it.
Mm.
But also with what's happened, I think it's caused me and hopefully other people to start valuing our environment more and realizing what we have and how to enjoy life from just, nature, from what we see. We already have the best things in life. We just need to celebrate them.
Yeah. Paul said to me today, we were just having lunch, and he said, he was talking to someone, and they said, they felt that the way things were going, that they felt that they were being shut down and kind of restricted. And I said, you know what, I have the complete opposite experience of COVID. I think it's given us an opportunity to really consider what we want to do, and it's given me an opportunity, and all of society an opportunity, to really reconnect with what might be important. And so I found it really liberating in many ways. Now I've got time to reflect on it.
Yeah, I would agree. There's something that's refreshing about it. Trauma, and it is a traumatic time for everybody, but trauma also produces growth, change. I remember I've had a couple of things happen, many years ago that were traumatic, and your senses really are heightened by, that kind of fight or flight thing or whatever, where everything looks more vivid, sounds more vivid, and your feelings and emotions are very, the microphone's turned way up.
Yeah. Amplified.
Yeah. And I think this is a time like that where you get this clarity and these clear thoughts, and the uncertainty as well keeps you on your toes and keeps it kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think the amplification is the amplification of trauma is the thing that creates the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress. But there is also that thing called post-traumatic growth, as you pointed out. And I think what you've been talking about with your artwork, and how it's, made you really kind of like reconnect with yourself and really like look inwards and say, hang on a minute, what's important to me about life and my surroundings, is one of the great things about those opportunities. Yeah, you can't play down the negative impact of trauma at all, and never would wish to minimize that for anybody. It's real. But if we can just stand back a little bit and be reflective, it can give us that amazing clarity.
And maybe help as an artist, help with your resolve to your subject or what you do. It may be that after this year, I go back to doing exactly what people knew me for in the same quantities, but I will approach it with a reset. So it won't be the same. It won't be from the same perspective anymore. I'm sure most artists have reset their objectives and their viewpoints in life, and it's not done. The reset isn't finished yet. There's still a ways to go.
I think we reset continually. That there's an opportunity to that's the whole thing about New Year's resolutions, isn't it? It's these moments, these moments of change, when we change to a new year or you have a birthday, give you an opportunity to kind of reset and as you alluded to earlier, to get some clarity. That clarity will set you sail for a while, and then you can think about, again, is this truly what I want? Do I want to go back and do what I was doing before? But at least you'll do it from a conscious decision making state, as opposed to an unconscious kind of just drifting.
Yeah.
No one
and I've had that feeling where Well, I guess artists have artist block, where you're sitting in the studio and you're thinking, what do I do next? I've done it all. I've painted everything. There's nothing left. and just when you finally given up and said there's nothing left, oh, there is something. You get something new. But you have to reach that point sometimes of desperation, or
going to the edge and looking over and saying and thinking, how does that make you feel? How do you feel if you have that looking over the edge thing and thinking, there's nothing more now, what am I going to do? How does that make you feel?
Well, in time, you hopefully grow wise and realize, yeah, I've had that feeling before, and I know that means the idea is right around the corner. I'm about to be enlightened to how much I don't know, or how much I haven't thought of yet. And there's just so many possibilities. I think it was Andrew Wyeth said he was fascinated with how many different ways you could paint a hand. So he could never get bored with just drawing a hand, because there's so many variations on one subject. So when you think you've really got hand down to it, you just go, oh, that's a hand. You need to revisit what the hand really is, and multiply that times the universe.
Recalibrate. That's what I've experienced by doing these artist interviews. Last time, during September when we did them, it really resonated with me. It really kind of hit me like a thunderbolt that, every single artist has their unique thoughts and their unique way, but the subject matter, the world, our feelings, it's about the emotional response to what's going on around us. We're all, experiencing the world in our own unique way, and so the ideas will never cease. The only way you'll have the continual supply of obvious is average, and no artist aspires to average. So you have to have the element of jeopardy in your art practice to get those, like you said earlier, the excitement and the moments of unexpected, and the pushing the edges to wait for the moment of something really exciting to happen. So you kind of have to go, you have to allow yourself to go to the edge, don't you?
Well, to go to the edge and back again.
Yeah. Step back.
From your field, you don't want to go over the edge.
No going over the edge. No, because that's the thing. You don't go over the edge, but you have to allow yourself to be brave and vulnerable, to allow in the ideas, the exceptional moments.
I think that what I'm doing now is trying to let the material lead, let nature lead. And so it's going to an edge that's more like nature. It's not like going to the psychological edge. I go to this psychological extreme in my mind, which is from more like the dream state. And so I'm coming away from the sort of dreaming of these complex architectural constructions or costumery, to engaging my imagination into the physics of the paint and the reality of the nature, when applying those tools differently. And the edge is something more like you drop acid or something and you go there, or you're starting to hallucinate from too much lead in your paint.
Yeah, don't go to that edge. That's not the edge I'm alluding to. The edge of bravery. It's about allowing yourself to be vulnerable to the new ideas, and be vulnerable enough to try that. And that's what you've done with this exhibition, is you've allowed yourself to be vulnerable and put it out there, and that's exciting. And do you know what? A really good role model as well for someone who is successful like you. I think people look up to you. and respect you. I think that's, you know, you're modeling really good behavior in how to grow an art career and how to be brave and vulnerable and show that, you know, art evolves, and you're not just aspiring to the average, you're aspiring to something exciting and something that's unseen right now.
And that's the journey I want to take, and I don't look at it as just, you know, this season. It's where will I be 10, 20 years from now with my art? What will I want to be doing? And maybe it will be, you know, 15 feet tall paintings, and I'll just be this, you know, little gray mouse in the corner laughing because I'd done this.
Wizened. Slightly wizened and crooked. You've
But
got to look after yourself.
I think what I want is at some point the other exercises of fun, expressions of fun, and flamboyancy in different directions. I want to feel like I've done them and experienced them. I've always appreciated them and known all the different disciplines, and I've truly the work that people know me for. I've really covered it. You know, there's a lot, and so I owe nothing more to anybody, but I still love it, and you know, still have the desire to do it. But I also have this other side of me that wants to throw clay, you know.
Yeah, that's truly. And did you know that was really weird, because that was going through my head. I was like, sculpture. What do you know? I'd love to see you really explore the 3D.
Well, I do, and one of my addictions is building. If people that know me closely are always telling me, Dan, you need to stop. You're an artist, you shouldn't be. But if you watch me build, I create a lot of 3D, you know, fantastic architecture that's, you know, for my own consumption, if you will. But I'm always dreaming something up and building it. And my daughter is that way, just born that way. She'll just take any material laying around and make amazing things out of it all the time. So you know, I feel like my family is a maker of things. We make things with our hands. That's what we do. We dream it up and we make it.
How
and
exciting
it doesn't
to see that in your child.
I'm sorry?
How exciting to see that in your child.
Yeah, well, you never know what you're going to see, but you're going to see something at least once a day. And like this crazy parachute comes flying off the balcony that it's kind of like a hot air balloon, but it's a parachute. And it's all put together with very fine paper, and, you know, all the strings are all the ropes are cut out of paper, and it's probably laying around here somewhere. But you could walk outside, and there in the tree is a bird's nest with a stuffed crow in it, that she made, and it's just there to surprise people.
Oh, it's just wonderful. But the future's safe, isn't it? The future's safe.
Well, it helps you see where it comes from. It maybe helps better understand what it is. And so my art has been that. I've just found a way to make a living from it, you know, and that's to kind of harness something that I could really focus on and make it tangible. But it's not something they really teach in art school. It's something you're born with. You have it when you're 5, you have it when you're 8.
Yeah, it comes through your upbringing and your socialization, doesn't it? And your tendencies. If you've got a very entrepreneurial tendency in you, and you've made art your business, and you've really focused in on making your business. But as you said, you know, you're slightly liberated from that now, and it's going to be fascinating to see how you take that on. And I can't wait to see the exhibition. So it opens on the 23rd of May. Are you going to do anything digitally so that we, us poor souls that don't live in America, can see it?
Well, you must have gotten the invitations and
have
read them. I
not
probably
allowed
haven't.
to get on a plane. They won't let me.
Well, so it will be a virtual exhibition, and so we'll have, as it's formatted in that announcement, you'll be able to interact. We'll do the docent tour and have the work in this type of a setting where you can see it and talk about it. And if you can make the trip, people can book an appointment, a time slot, so that they could see the work safely without being in a large group.
Yeah, that's, I think the beauty of life going forward, again, another absolute, you know, bonus is that people are now familiar with the hybrid version of seeing digital and being satisfied with having to book a slot to go and having that time to experience the art in their own good time. I think it's the death of the private view, and it's no bad thing. But it comes with this wonderful advantage of quality time.
Well, there's an efficiency to it. There's an inclusion of more people when everyone is kind of on that same playing field of using this virtual show. But I don't think it replaces the real feeling of standing in front of a work of art. Seeing an original work of art.
The smell, just the smell of the paint and just being in that environment, it's an energy.
Yeah, to stand in front of Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delight, you're going to stand there and look at it for 40 minutes. To look at a picture on the internet, you're going to look at it for 4 minutes at the most, probably. And so there's something to the amount of information, the energy that's coming from the original that isn't communicated in the digital world. But what the digital world does is it connects that smaller amount, that 4 minutes of information, to a much bigger audience, and it makes it much more accessible. I can't get over to the Prada this week to look at that painting. I think it's still there. But I could look it up on the internet and spend my 4 minutes. I'd much rather go to Spain and stand in front of the original. But
yeah, me too. I'd much rather come out to America and stand in front of the original, but I will definitely be joining you for the digital version. And if anyone wants to sign up for that, who's watching this video, they just go to your website and sign up to your mailing list, and they'll get notification, won't they, of how it's all going to happen.
Yes, and I've been in the meetings when everyone's talked about how they're going to do it, but I still like to hand off the technical side of it to the others.
Yeah, let someone else do that. You've done all the work. You've done all the paintings. You're all right. You can hand the technical stuff over to somebody else. But I know you, Daniel. You will eventually want to know what happens in the technical side and want to be involved in that.
Well, yeah. I guess I'm very hard worker, but I'm lazy too. I think the two go hand in hand. So mentally, I feel like I've given so much physically, mentally to this physical work that I do, that when it comes to wrapping my head around technology and figuring out how things work, I like to.
I think you have given enough, and the hours and years of your life to painting those details, but just the little glimpse that we can see there. for me, I hope you don't stop doing some of that, because it is, I love it. But I also really, really, with a passion, love the new work as well. And so that means that shows so much promise that you think, what else? So the future's bright. The future's exciting.
Well, one of the things that a point that I like to make is that artists are here now. You're able to do it now, but you might not be tomorrow. It's in the now, and those paintings are the now moment. And I want to do them while I have the chance and the physical ability, because something could happen tomorrow where I just can't. And with the work that I had done over the last 40 years, that has a life expectancy, and my productivity has a life expectancy which is already being tailored back. So those pieces will become more of a rarity, more precious, but the time that I can do them is more precious as well. So I still intend to do them, but I'm obviously not going to be able to do 12 hours a day.
No, and nor would you, I should think, at this point in your life. You've got the children and you've got other things also to pay attention to.
Well, mentally I would.
The children, remember.
I still work on something 16 hours a day, and all night I lay awake and think about what I'm working on. I don't stop. Terrible.
That is why you're exhausting yourself. You need to, you need to work out some calm. You need to do some meditation.
Oh no, I love it. I'm just excited about it all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Why sleep when you can be making something?
Yeah, the joy is really evident in your work. That's why, that's what is so, the energy is so evident in your work, and that's why you have been so successful, and you will continue to be so successful, because it's palpable. You can feel it, especially when you're stood in front of it in real life. And I have a great deal of respect for you, as you know. And I look forward to seeing your work in real life at some point when we're all allowed to. But in the meantime, I will have to just put up with seeing it on the internet. Are you going to do another book, or have you done another book?
We're talking about another book, but it will be of a different theme. We were working on a project that we're not disclosing. Involves it's something that has also run into problems because of COVID. So that I don't think we'll be ready to announce anything until we know, what's going to happen. But we were planning on publishing a book on that. But in terms of another catalog raisonné, I don't know, maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
You're anxious for another book?
I'm anxious for another book. I've got all my books, and it's a lovely record. It's something that's like, it's peaceful to be able to just browse through the books. It's a peaceful thing to be able to do.
Well, I like to do them every so often to try to catalog and update the work, but I also try to include earlier work so that if you get, the older books are out of print, you get the new one, you still get a cross section of my career. But the books are a lot of work to produce.
I know.
And not everybody realizes that you might spend a good 6 months just working on design and organizing it, and it's a pretty big project. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it's nice because you give a little bit of your own self in your your thought process as well, and that's it's lovely for people to be able to access a bit of that in a book. And I just love I'm a book lover. I've just got a thing about books. I just love books. Yeah, I don't think, like digital exhibitions can't replace the real thing. I don't think digital books can replace the real thing either. I really love the feel and the whole mindful process of looking at a book and being with a book.
Well, it brings up an interesting topic about our eyes and LED lights. And one thing that I don't think the masses are aware of, but the industries are aware of, is that your brain resets and starts to see things differently. It has expectations. So the more you're, on screen time, the less you're able to actually see and interpret a reflective art or reflective surface. You become accustomed to the monitor, to something that's backlit with LED lights. And LED lights have a specific range of color that they produce, which is much more limited than natural sunlight. So we deal with it with our children, where we're trying to limit their screen time because they're homeschooling on iPads all day, and then they want to watch, cartoons or whatever. And I deal with it in the studio, where the studios or the galleries where you're trying different light bulbs and you see how the colors change, and you're trying to proof prints or mix colors, and they look one way here and different over there. When you start to understand LED lights, which are screens or LEDs, it's kind of frightening. So going back to a real book, hard copy book, is training yourself to eat organic food.
Yes, that's why I like it then, because I also eat organic food and principally pretty much vegan. And that's been transformative in my life, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. I think. Thank you so much, Daniel. I really, really enjoyed it. And I encourage everybody to not slam the door, but to come and watch
my kids.
the kids come and see the exhibition online, and then hopefully when they have the opportunity to come and see your work for real, in the flesh, as it were, and not with LED lights behind it.
Well, thank you. Always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah,
wonderful environment you create, an opportunity for all these artists to be seen or heard or enjoyed. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.